Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are going to unpack a hidden, honestly, kind of dangerous, psychological glitch in the human brain. Think about this. What if I told you that you could make an absolute stranger trust you with their deepest secrets, their money, or their career, all in under 5 minutes? Sounds totally like fiction, right? Well, it's very real, and we're going to break down exactly how it works. So let's dive into this. We're talking about building absolute trust here. But listen, we aren't using magic, and we definitely aren't using hypnosis. We're going to look at the exact same toolkit used by FBI hostage negotiators, high-stakes salespeople, and undercover spies. It's this wild psychological loophole that when you actually master it, makes you instantly likable and almost completely disarms anyone you interact with.
The core concept here is called the mirroring trap. See, we all love to think of ourselves as these fiercely independent thinkers. But the truth? Humans are deeply insecure creatures, and we are biologically hardwired to look for ourselves in others. When you learn how to feed that hunger, you become irresistible. But a quick warning right up front. If you do this wrong, you don't look charming, you just end up looking like a cheap manipulator, or worse, a creepy mind.
Okay, phase 1, the lizard brain science. Let's look at why this works. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, if someone didn't look like your tribe, act like your tribe, or speak like your tribe, they were probably a direct threat to your life. Because of that, our brains developed this built-in survival mechanism using what we call mirror neurons. Basically, when someone matches your energy, your brain instantly feels safe. It subconsciously whispers, hey, they're just like me. They aren't going to hurt me.
And this brings us to the golden rule of trust. It goes like this: similarity breeds comfort, and comfort breeds trust. If you can establish similarity, you instantly create a foundation of comfort. And where there's profound comfort, unshakable trust inevitably follows. It is a biological sequence that is practically impossible for the conscious mind to interrupt.
In fact, Chris Voss, the former lead international kidnapping negotiator for the FBI, he famously calls mirroring the closest thing we have to a social superpower. When he was in incredibly tense hostage situations, he wouldn't argue with terrorists. He mirrored them. Why? Because mirroring completely disarms a person's ego. It literally takes the fight right out of them.
All right, let's get into the actionable stuff, the 3 levels of the mirroring trap.
Our approach breaks down into 3 distinct areas. We start right at the surface with level 1, physical mirroring, which is your body language. Then we move into level 2, vocal mirroring, tuning into tone and speed. And finally, we drop all the way down into the deepest layer, level 3, the psychological emotional echo. Let's unpack that first level.
So level 1 is all about your physical presence. Now, a lot of beginners make a massive mistake right out of the gate here. They instantly copy-paste someone else's movements. The other person crosses their arms, boom, the beginner immediately crosses their arms. But guys, that isn't mirroring, that is just mocking them, and people will subconsciously pick up on it immediately.
The absolutely crucial point here is mastering the 10-second delay rule. If the person you're talking to leans back, you stay put. You gotta wait 10 to 15 seconds. Then, naturally, while you are speaking, you subtly lean back. If they take a sip of their drink, wait a beat, maybe 2, and then take a sip of yours. It has to feel completely organic.
And here is a really fantastic pro tip for mastering this physical stuff. You want to match the vibe, not the exact limbs. What does that mean? Well, if the person you're speaking with crosses their right leg, you might just cross your arms. You aren't acting as a literal physical mirror. You're simply matching the relaxed or maybe engaged energy of their posture.
Let's shift gears to level 2, vocal mirroring. Honestly, this is where the real magic happens, because you can build immense, unbreakable trust with someone over the phone without them ever even seeing your face. This level is entirely about auditory alignment.
You absolutely need to match their tempo and their volume. If you're talking to someone who speaks slowly and deliberately, and you come in firing at 100 miles per hour like some caffeine-fueled hype man, you have already lost. Their brain will subconsciously flag you as annoying or overly aggressive just because you don't match their tribe's pacing.
This leads us directly to the FBI method of linguistic mirroring. It's remarkably simple. When someone finishes speaking, you just repeat the last 2 to 3 critical words back to them as a question. For example, if they say, "I've just been under so much pressure at work lately," you simply reply, "Under much pressure?" By doing this, you aren't offering unsolicited advice, and you definitely aren't turning the conversation back to yourself. Instead, you're giving their brain a massive dopamine rush. Why? Because they feel completely and totally heard.
When you hit them with that linguistic mirror, they will instantly and happily expand on their story.
All right, let's move to the absolute deepest level, level 3. This is the actual trap, the emotional echo. At this stage, you don't just mirror what they do with their hands or what they say with their voice. You mirror exactly how they feel. This is all about deep empathy and emotional alignment.
Say someone is venting to you. Don't try to fix it with logic by saying, oh, it'll be fine. No. Instead, match their emotional intensity. If they're angry about an incredibly unfair situation, validate that anger. Say, wow, that sounds incredibly unfair. By doing this, you bypass their logical filters entirely. They stop viewing you as an outsider, and you practically become an extension of them.
Okay, we need to talk about the dark side, the danger zone, spotting the manipulator.
You really need to beware of the soulmate illusion. Con artists, toxic bosses, narcissists, they are natural-born mirrorers. In the early phases of meeting them, they will artificially engineer trust to make you feel like immediate soulmates. You mention you like jazz? Suddenly, they love jazz. You hate corporate politics? Oh, they passionately hate it too. It feels too perfect, because it is engineered.
So, what is your ultimate defense mechanism here? It's called the pattern break test. If you suspect you're being played, suddenly change your posture or your tone drastically. Lean completely forward or start speaking noticeably faster. If they smoothly follow your shift within 30 seconds, well, congratulations, you've just caught someone actively trying to manipulate your trust.
Let's wrap things up with the conclusion, the ethical edge.
It's so crucial to remember that mirroring isn't about being fake. It's about lowering defensive walls. Honestly, it's the absolute fastest way to make people feel genuinely safe, heard, and understood in a loud world that rarely takes the time to actually listen. You can use this to ace a job interview, connect way more deeply with your partner, or smoothly navigate a really tense conversation.
But keep this in mind, with great psychological power comes great responsibility. As you take this new toolkit out into the real world, use it to build bridges and foster genuine connection. Please, don't use it to manipulate those around you for personal gain.
I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as we finish up this explainer. Think back on your recent conversations, maybe a first date or a meeting with a remarkably charismatic boss. Have you ever caught someone mirroring you? Because I guarantee, once you know the signs, you are going to start seeing this absolutely everywhere. Thanks for joining me today, and keep your eyes open out there.